Welcome to the Symphony of Realities podcast, boldly taking you where no podcast has gone before. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation as you settle into your X, Y, and Z coordinates within time and space. Here are your hosts, Christopher Anatra and Sean Bond.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Symphony of Realities. I hope you settled into your X, Y, and Z coordinates within space and time, because we have a really fascinating, thought-invoking show for you today. And remember that in the words of Van Halen, everything is right now, is everything. Catch that magic moment right now. So I'm going to turn the magic moment over to Sean. Sean, give us a little quick introduction about yourself, and then we're going to talk to Logan, our special guest.
Hello, I'm Sean Bond of the PsionicLeague. Where we go into unlocking the untapped potential of the human spirit and how to go deeper into our consciousness to know more of ourselves and the universe around us. And we like to get into all types of topics because every pathway is another way of expansion. And I much appreciate the number coding of the reality, as everything is built upon things that can be counted and the meaning behind it. So I appreciate our guest today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Logan?
Well, thanks, and thanks to both of you for having me on. I always love connecting with different platforms, so I'm really grateful to be here. So my name is Logan, and I have a channel called Decode Your Reality. You can always find me if you look for the big smiley, the regular smiley face. I have it kind of tattooed on my hand there. That's kind of my logo. And it's just kind of a reminder to not take life so seriously. And of course, the smiley face is a representation of the sun, which is kind of the logos that runs this reality, or at least has a big hand in all that. So my whole platform is based upon breaking down our realities through multiple esoteric, occult modalities: astrology, numerology, gematria, sine and cosine waves, mathematics, trigonometry, the cards of illumination, typical deck of playing cards, the tarot, medicine cards. So I bring all these into my platform to break it down and to figure out exactly what we're doing here as human beings, as a species, what's running us, what potentially could be running this reality, and how to have the best experience. I have a background in personal development, went on that kick for about 10 years. Bob Proctor was a big influence in my life. So I went on that journey for a while, and I was able to take a lot of the instruments that he and his people brought into the works, into the personal development world, and really kind of bring that into the world of decoding. Because once you start to decode yourself personally and figure out what you're doing here, and then you bring in personal development and you mix the two together, it's a very beautiful recipe for having, I say, the greatest experience in this reality. And it really comes down to one thing, guys, and that's, being somebody who's highly grateful, living a life of high gratitude in life. To me, that is the emotion, if you will. That is the base fundamental of being a human being. I think love and fear are the two emotions that run this reality, but gratitude is really the superiority in all of this. I feel like gratitude is the way to go. And so these are some of the things that I bring in. I do a weekly or bi-weekly podcast as well. And we talk a lot about sounds like a lot of the same stuff that you gentlemen talk about on your podcast. So.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll tell you, I found out about you through my friend Chad from Open Your Reality. And it's funny, his channel name is Open Your Reality. Yours is Decode Your Reality. And now you're on Symphony of Realities.
Yeah. Interesting, right? Yeah.
Yes, we have a lot of reality things going on too. Yeah. And I just want to say something at the beginning. One of the things I caught when you were talking to Chad was about your background when you were younger. And you and I actually had the same background. Do you want to tell those listeners about that? Yeah.
Well, I was born and raised in probably one of the strictest religions known to mankind, which is the Jehovah's Witness organization. Being born into it, I didn't really know any better, so I lived a childhood that was very, very, I look back on it, it was extremely challenging, frustrating. I had to work through these layers, doing shadow work, mirror work, when I decided to do that as an adult, to let go of a lot of things, a lot of beliefs, a lot of programming. And I don't regret any of it, because my beliefs and my understanding at this point of living out as a human being is that my life is living through a predestined, scripted reality, meaning that my life was already decided upon before I ever came out into this world in 1973. So me being in that organization, it was something that I was supposed to enter into. It served a purpose, and it was a piece of the journey. And I'm all about living in the now moment. So when you had mentioned that at the beginning, I'm all for that, because that's all that matters, is the now moment. So.
Yeah, that's cool that too. So I know exactly what you're talking about how strict it is. Don't celebrate birthdays. The holidays are out the window. Yeah, you feel like you're being constantly monitored. Being a teenager in that religion is like really difficult, especially if you want to date and all that. So, but like you said, part of the script when we came in, and it served its purpose. And like you, I feel that it helped me. So I just wanted
definitely.
just wanted to share that with the audience. So, I know Sean will have some questions, but I've got some as well. Just for those in our audience that are not familiar with Gematria, how would you explain that to them?
Well, Gematria, Gematria or Gematria, however you want to pronounce it. Gematria is the coding of words into numbers. That's really the base fundamental, the definition of it. It's an ancient Hebrew/Greek practice. The Greeks called it isopsophy. And the Hebrews called it Gematria. So it's just basically putting a word into whatever kind of calculator. There are many calculators, ciphers is another word for it. There are countless ciphers out there at this point. You can create your own, which I have done. I have several that I've created using, the research in mathematics and sine and cosine waves and et cetera, et cetera. And, it's basically taking any word. And once you have this cipher established, like if I just use the basic A through Z 1 through 26, that numbering system, which is what most people will come in and start to utilize, you'll start to get a code, a breakdown of the magic spells that we speak. And so now you can have a numbering system behind the magic spells that we speak. Everything you say is a magic spell. That's why they say, how do you spell your last name? What's the spelling of your name? So it's all about casting spells. Right now, I'm casting spells. Everything that we say during this podcast essentially is casting spells.
Exactly. And how like some words will have the same meaning or not the same meaning with the same frequency, but different meanings, like NO versus KNOW. So, and that makes a big difference. And based upon what you said, I want to bring Mandela effects into the conversation for a moment, because there's a lot of names that have changed their spelling. And I feel that like decoding Mandela effects is a way to decode the reality. So there's one in particular, there's actually two I wanted to bring up for you. One is called, I'm going to see if I can share my screen here and bring it up for everybody to see. Can you all see the screen right now?
Yeah.
With the Addams family?
Yep.
Okay. Does something look wrong with the word Addams?
Well, it's got 2 Ds there. Yeah.
Yeah. Does that look right to you?
That's how I remember it.
Oh, you do remember it with 2 Ds?
Yeah.
Okay. So for myself and a lot of other people, the 2 Ds is like, wow, that's really interesting. So could that mean a change in the reality with some kind of a meaning from those of us that remember it with 1 D versus the 2 Ds, which is the way it's always been?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest Mandela effect for me personally, and I went down this rabbit hole for a while, for many months. I was kind of fascinated by it. I haven't decoded it yet. I've had a lot of requests to do so. I may end up doing that. I think the word Mandela itself is kind of fascinating, but the biggest one for me is the 1983 movie called Risky Business with Tom Cruise.
Oh yeah, with the sunglasses?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, the most famous, scene in that movie, or one of them, was when he slides into the living room, Bob Seger playing old time rock and roll. And he's got the button down shirt, and no pants, the socks, and the pair of Ray-Bans. But now when you go watch that scene, there are no Ray-Bans that he's wearing. So, I mean, that was, to me, there's been, the Berenstain Bears, Sex and the City, Fruit Loops. There's been so many of these. And I know a lot of these, I feel that we look at these words and we're like, oh, I could swear it was spelled this way, but it's spelled this way. I think that really our eyes can deceive us. But for me, anyway, the risky business one was really kind of the one that was the icing on the cake. It was the takeaway for me to realize, wait a minute, something's going on here. So I got a lot of people asking, what do you think it means? And I can only theorize on what I think is happening in this reality. I think if you bring astrology into it, we're now moving, it seems now at this stage of the game for me in my research, I feel like we're now moving into the age of Aquarius. I thought that we were already there many years ago. I was saying we're already in the age of Aquarius just because of what's coming down the pike, what we're seeing with technology. But now looking at the astrology map and my research, I really feel like we're now bridging that gap. We're now slightly moving into, or about to move into, the age of Aquarius. And I think that because of this, there's a lot of disturbance in the air, if you will. And I think that may be one of the reasons why the Mandela effect has taken place. You can talk about CERN and them digging the hole in the quantum realm with their Large Hadron Collider. We can theorize upon that, but there are just going to be theories, right, that we can talk about. Then we can bring in, the coding of words into numbers, break it down into numerology, and start to look at these words and these letters and numbers and symbols and talk about it from that perspective. But it's an interesting concept, to say the least, the Mandela effect.
Yeah. So let me thank you for that. Let me just hit you with one more. What about this guy, Evel Knievel?
Evel Knievel, yeah. Well, it's.
Do you remember it's spelled with the two E's?
I don't. I don't.
At least he's not evil anymore.
Yeah. No, I know. I don't remember. What is his name? I think you go to his name now. So if you go to his name, what is his actual birth name? I don't remember. Let me see if I can see it. Because that would have to change. So his birth name was Robert Craig Knievel. That doesn't give us much to go on. Yeah, I mean, I just couldn't tell you. I haven't looked at this one. This is something new.
Yeah. So, and we're going to be hitting you with new things today. So
cool.
Yeah. So we appreciate, like, whatever insight you want to bring is totally cool. Because Sean and I love decoding Mandela effects. That's kind of our thing.
Okay.
Like the famous one about mirror, mirror on the wall.
Yeah.
It's never mirror. It's always been magic mirror.
Yeah, that one's another one too. Yep.
Could there be more magic in this timeline? Like, could there be reasons like that? So could it be simple? A message from
like the compare and contrast and the timeline differences of the change before and then after, and then seeing the difference in the compare and contrast and determining what's the causation and reason and goal behind a timeline change. Like you were saying.
Yeah. At this point, guys, I mean, is it affecting our lives? I mean, I look at how does it affect my life? Risky business. I haven't even watched the movie again. I just watched the snippets. It doesn't affect my life. Is it affecting my life if there is such a thing as Mandela effect? Maybe. I just don't know about it. It would be slight, right? I mean, the changing of these words. If you bring in I like to say it's numerology because Gematria is kind of the buzzword, but none of us really code word into numbers. We decode. So then you have to bring in numerology into it. So really the proper place, in my opinion, is you got to go to numerology, which is the science of numbers. Gematria is great, but many words equal the same outcomes. And then you're kind of at a watered down dead end results. So you got to know or be a fan of numerology. You got to know what the numbers mean. What does the number 1 mean? What does the number 6 mean? What does the number 23 mean?
Right.
These are all going to play a role in how this reality works. And then you got to take the numbers and bring them into other layers, such as the cards, the tarot, sine and cosine waves. I'm a huge fan of measuring numbers in the sign of the golden ratio, which is 1.61, bringing it. Where does the number fit in that? How about pi? 3.14, the string of pi. Where does the number fit? Where do the numbers fit there? What is the sine and cosine wave? What are sine and cosine waves? Trigonometry, the measurement of pi in the circle. And so the Mandela effect is a great starting point. But then we theorize about like what you showed, Evel Knievel, the Addams family, but is it affecting our lives? I just don't know. I don't feel it. Do you guys feel any change in your life since you've been discovering this stuff?
Well, for me, it was my big wake up thing, because there were a lot of big Mandela effects for me, everything from the JFK assassination to the geography of the earth to body changes, placement of organs in the body, like the kidneys being up by the lungs, no longer in the lower back. Like that really shook me and caused me to start investigating more. What is reality? What is going on? How could it be if things are like written in the sands of time and can't be changed? How could these things be changed? And how does consciousness play into that? And are we avatars having consciousness in an avatar having an experience ascending into higher frequency bandwidth timelines? And then we see the evidence of that in Mandela effects, almost like Easter eggs in a video game. There are hints and wonderful surprises that we have experienced a timeline shift. So for me, it made a difference, because I was like, what?
Tell them about how it affected your relationship with the Flintstones thing.
Oh yeah, so I had a girlfriend back in, this is probably early 2017, and there's this cartoon that I grew up with called the Flintstones.
Love it.
Yeah, and it was always Flint, Flint, like the rock you rub the rocks together and you get a spark and you make fire, that the cavemen would use. And then there was a Mandela effect at the time where it changed to Flintstones, and everywhere you looked online, there was no more T anymore. And then my girlfriend was like, it never had a T. You're just imagining that. You're misremembering. And then literally a week later, it switched back to the T. And everywhere online, it now is Flintstones. So that's an example of a Mandela effect that switched back and forth. And there are other ones too, like Tom Hanks had a movie.
Box of chocolates.
When he's an astronaut and he's,
oh, okay,
Houston, we have a problem. And then his line changed to Houston, we had a problem. And then like a month later, it switched back to Houston, we have a problem. So there's a lot of the flip-flops.
Sure.
Chick-fil-A is another famous one. Like, is it CHICK or CHIC? That one's always flipping back and forth. So yeah. So by the way, I had to end. Well, that relationship wound up ending because of the Flintstones. So I blame the Flintstones Mandela effect for that one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I find it, like I said, I went down the rabbit hole for a couple of months. And I honestly just got bored with it, because it's like, like I said, the risky business to me, that was the golden egg for Mandela effect. Because I know he was wearing a pair of Ray-Bans. So again, if I had to give you a final answer at this point, which is subject to change, is that we're having interference patterns in this reality. People call it the matrix, because we're moving from one age to the next. And I think we're getting a DNA upgrade. If we're going to be able to survive this, if there is, because there is some aspects to take into consideration that a lot of mankind will be wiped out. We could talk about that maybe later on down the line, but I think that I've talked about this, that I think mankind is getting a DNA upgrade. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is we're moving into a lot of these theoretical positions of moving from 3D to 5D, right? And that would mean that you get a DNA upgrade. And you're getting interference patterns in order to ascend to get to that position, to get this DNA upgrade. And I think that we may see a lot more of these as we move into this new age, seemingly the age of Aquarius, So there are many facets to this, but I think that mainly is the main reason why you're seeing the Mandela effect, is you're getting interference patterns, disruption in the reality. And I've said to my audience that the decoding world is exploding. I mean, it's growing rapidly, because people are like you guys, you're interested in like, why is this stuff happening? because we're trying to make sense of it, because you want to know, you're curious, you know, we're all curious here. And then when you feel like, well, wait a minute, you've been lied to, well, then it gives you the fuel to kind of investigate this information even more, because you just got to want to know. And then if you bring astrology into this, those of you that have Scorpio positions, I mean, the Scorpio position is a position heavily linked to discovering the occult, like wanting to know the secrets of the universe, especially Scorpio. If you have planetary positions in Scorpio, what's in your 8th house, where is Scorpio rising? There's a lot of things to take into consideration. But those of you that are Scorpios, it's a dead giveaway that you're bred to dive into and look at the esoteric and the occult. But honestly, guys, I just think that that's what we're looking at here with the Mandela effect. I just think it's an interference pattern as we move and shift into what seemingly could be a DNA upgrade.
Sean, would you like to comment?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the reason I got into the Mandela effect is in seeing more of the reality. I help unlock people's dormant abilities, and I made a eclectic amount in my discovery as I grow and go into the pathway of ascending. I made a show on reality warping and quantum jumping, the effect of being able to shift your reality timeline and what is observable in the external of your seen to unseen boundary of like your see as yourself and the reality outside your sight and senses as a Schrödinger's cat box in quantum physics. Is it alive or dead? It can be, the outcome of that experiment can be changed by conscious influence and retrocausality. So there are numerous authorities that have gained the ability to influence the timeline and see it as like a timeline movie line that can be edited and seen as like a garden. The reason for timeline splits as a garden, like Earth has the ability, Source has the ability, many other granted authorities that they delegate to do that, as people have the ability through moral code to earn more and more abilities, such as to heal their own timeline and then extend outward in territory of effect. And if they go back in time and influence a wound that they experienced, like in a past life, that didn't necessarily need to happen, and it isn't dramatically set in stone by like a bunch of different factors of needing to happen, and it's swayable, and it doesn't hugely influence the greater map and quilt of reality, then it can be influenced as you can influence a packet of healing to it and then resolve it, and then it can change the entire effect forward in time without, and especially if it's done without causing time loops. But even with that, like Earth has the ability to make like, let's say there's multiple chess players, light and dark, trying to influence and sway the direction of the timeline. And if something wants to create a nuclear fallout timeline, Earth has the ability to be like, no, that's not the goal of this timeline, and then like branch that off as a timeline. But then that has the effect of those chess players to have an experience. There might be some good things to work out and see and experience and learn from that timeline, which is why it exists. And then that can be filtered, the stuff that it doesn't want to have, and then thrive and grow the good stuff, and then have that bounce back into merging with the timeline, the good stuff, seamlessly, or replace certain things like memories. And some people won't remember, some people will, depending on how directly connected they are to it. That's the good end of it. But there's also, like you said, disruption, such as like what people are saying, what CERN is doing, and some of the dark forces that stole dark forces don't earn abilities, they steal them. So they had to get it from an actual authority that is in the light and a caretaker of the timelines to be able to have that ability in the first place. That's my opinion. I'm not projecting. And there's a lot of things to it, because I love your expertise, so I have a lot of questions for you, but there's different ways that numerology and Gematria can decode into the reality of Mandela effects, reality, and so many other things. I'm gonna list with you, but I don't want to take up the whole like hour or whatever.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you some stuff on example. You went into magic spells as so I wanted to ask you what you think of magic spell equations that like built upon adding things to the equation amplify the spell, and how numbers and gematria goes into that.
Yeah, that's a great question. When there are things done on certain days, when there are things done on lunar eclipses, solar eclipses, when there are things done, when there are planetary alignments, conjunctions, which you asked me about earlier, I feel these all play a role in magnifying whatever is going to happen on the world stage. If you take 9/11, for example, and you look at it on the astrological map and you know how to read astrology, you can clearly see that everything was in alignment for the magnification of that. It wasn't just George Bush sitting there snickering or, kind of not playing it off like it wasn't a big deal when he got whispered in his ear what had happened that morning when he was sitting in a school in Florida. Like, it goes far beyond that. And people see we have to establish a foundation here if we're going to talk about this. So my foundation is that the mind of mankind is not your own. It's not your own. The voice in your head, if you've ever kind of done critical thinking, where are these ideas coming from? Like, you just say, oh, I have a great idea.
Yeah.
Where's it coming from?
Yeah.
Where's the voice in your head that talks to you, that is doing it right now? Where is it coming from? Right. So we have to figure that out. Right. But I decoded the MK Ultra program. I decoded it. And what I found, guys, was the gentlemen that were behind the MK Ultra program, they were being mind controlled. They were being mind controlled to mind control people. So then you get into the aspect of the Mandelbrot set, which is all a derivative of fractals. So my foundation at this point, through my research, almost 400 videos of decoding and breaking down the people, places, and things, is that mankind is being used. Now, that's not a bad thing, because people automatically, what do you mean we're being used? Well, you're like a puppet on strings, a marionette. Well, who's the marionettist? Well, it's the supernatural. So like I say through my research, like, if you're the creator of this reality, wouldn't you come down here and experience it firsthand? Well, of course you would. Like, do you think the guy that created Pac-Man, you think he ever played Pac-Man one time? Donkey Kong one time? Do you think that the people that created the Samsung phone, they use a Samsung phone? Well, it would be kind of ridiculous to think otherwise. There are many mythology stories of the divine, the planets coming down here, incarnating into human beings. The Vedas talk about that, Krishna, the incarnation of Vishnu. There are so many layers to look at here, and you could start to see that these patterns are recurring. And it's showing you that the divine comes down and becomes whatever it wants at any point in time. And I say that it doesn't even have to come down here. I say that it's running you remote control from a remote control. Like when you pick up a remote control and play Xbox and you have your X and your zeros on there as your controller, and you're controlling the game, but do you think it stops there? I don't think so. I think we're being controlled by something supernatural. And I've discovered this pattern, these codes. I mean, I just broke down the NCAA championship in sport. I don't even really decode sports. It's not my thing, but I clearly showed the numbers of the men's and women's and why the teams were there and why this lady shot a 3-pointer. Like, it's just absurd to think that these games are being scripted by refs and coaches, and everybody would have to be in on this script. They would, and people think, well, they practice it. I'm like, you crazy thinking they practice these runs and they're going to take the shot. The shot has to go in to get certain point outcomes. It's just not, it's absurd to think that. So the conclusion that I've come to is that something's running this reality outside of the physical aspect that we call, the 3D reality. And it has its hands in everything. It's a big Ponzi scheme. So when you look at religions, I broke down Christianity, Judaism, Ahura Mazda. I just came out with that one. I've broken down the Vedas, Shiva, Vishnu, broken down all this stuff. And I've come to the conclusion, guys, that it's a big Ponzi scheme, meaning that whatever is creating these religions, there's over 10,000 now, it owns them all. It owns every single one. It gets bored. I mean, if you've been around eternally, you've been through countless games, you've been through countless ages, you've been through countless astrological ages. Well, at some point, you're going to get bored. Like, you can't keep playing the good guy character all the time, which is why you have the antagonist-protagonist aspect in this reality. So I feel like this reality has a foundational piece. We're being used. This is a movie set. We live inside of a movie set. You can call it The Truman Show. I've broken that down, parts 1 and part 2. And it's the supernatural that runs this. And there are timelines, as you have mentioned, right? Are there timelines? I think that it's a possibility. Like, if you look at nature, I study nature a lot. Look at a lightning bolt. If you just look at a lightning bolt, you'll see that the main lightning bolt that comes down is the biggest centerpiece, and then you have the branches of it going off. Are those the timelines? And the one in the middle, the main electrocuting bolt there that comes all the way down, everything's going to come down to the ground. When lightning comes down, it goes off, it branches off, just like your circulatory system. The veins in your leg, you have the one main vein and they branch off. There's a lightning bolt in your leg. And I feel like that's the timeline. And I feel like eventually you have a plot, a goal, a synopsis, right? A synopsis, I should say, like a movie. So we live in a movie set. So the movie has a plot. What's the plot of this reality? Well, it's in duality, meaning you have good cop, bad cop. Everything's allowed here because this reality is not real. What do I mean by that? Well, when you watch a movie on television, when you watch a movie on your phone, when you watch a movie on Netflix or whatever, is it real? Well, then people say, no, it's not real. Well, why are you getting emotionally involved with it? Why are you crying, getting mad, you're clenching your fists, you're pissed? Why do we do this? It's not even real. Because we can't separate the difference between what's real and what's not. But the actors are real. The script is real. They're reading a screenplay. Someone wrote the screenplay. That person's real. So we have to really look at this like what's real and what's not. And then we take into consideration the astrological perspective here. And I say we live in a cyclical pattern. So the timeline is the now moment. Everything's allowed because it's not real. We're being observed. We're being controlled. And we move from the golden age to the dark age, and then it repeats. So you just look at nature. All of us were born virgins, a baby. Okay, if you were born healthy, everything's working. There's no disease, no bacteria, no pathogens. But instantly and automatically, when you're born into this reality, you now start to have an enemy. You have enemies. You have who created it? What created pathogens and bacteria? You think the boogeyman created that? I mean, there wouldn't be a job for the white blood cells, your immune system. The job of the immune system is to fight off or ward off invaders, the killer T cells and the B cells. What created that? Well, obviously, whatever created that created the white blood cells and created the bacteria and the viruses to fight each other. It's like a little war going on, right? And so we live in a golden age to dark age. We live in a baby to a senior citizen. You're born into this world a virgin, and then you move through the timeline, which I say is Satan. If you want to know what the devil is, it's time. Because over time, when you go from a baby to a senior citizen and you finally kick the bucket and you die, okay, you're corrupt, you're dirty. Okay, there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom that we have when we get older. We become more wise and refined like wine. But we have a lot of programming, a lot of beliefs, and that weighs us down. The true aspect of nirvana and ascension is getting rid of everything. But that's a really tall task because all of us don't want to get rid of our beliefs because it's what grounds us to this reality, right? It's what grounds us to this reality. What you believe and what you define, you can get into the double slit experiment. What does that mean? Well, it's light shows up on a pattern. It shows a frequency, but when you put an observer on it, it changes. That's the definition of this reality. It's defining light. The double slit experiment is when you have an observer on light, you define it. And now you bring it from spirit into matter. And now it faces death. You get into the fallen angel story. Well, essentially, that's what we all are, I feel. Right? We're all, I mean, people say, well, you decided to come here. Maybe. No way to prove that, though. No way to prove that. But we live in a cycle. So my foundation, guys, my long explanation is you have a foundation. You have to have a foundation. The foundation is we live inside of a movie set. We're being watched. It's entertainment. The Greeks called it ambrosia. We're food for the gods. It's energetic exchange. Magic spells are energetic exchange. Love and fear, emotions, energetic exchange. We live in a battery. This reality earth is a battery. It's a self-contained system. And we go from golden age to dark age through the astrological ages, and then we repeat. So we're now moving into the age, or seemingly moving into the age of Aquarius. We're moving into now a baby stage, an infant stage again. And so it becomes blissful. Everybody becomes happy. All the bad guys get wiped out, right? Because it's time to go through death and then move into the rebirth. And, you know, if you're a fan of theology, it says it right in Luke 22, verses 10. Jesus says, follow me into the house with a man bearing a pitcher of water. Well, that's Aquarius, dumping the water out. It says it right there. So if you're a fan of theology, these books, theology, they're great to look at, but it tells you the story that, and it's all about, you know, the derivative of the Holy Bible anyway is the Egyptian Book of the Dead, but people have a hard time accepting that because then it would shatter their beliefs. A lot of people don't want to get rid of their beliefs because they'll have to be wrong, and no one wants to be wrong in this reality. No, all of us are literally living through, I'm right, and that's it. Because if we laid all our truths out on the table, all of us, all three of us here, everybody listening to this, if you lay all your truths out on the table and we can observe all of them, you know as well as I do that there are going to be some in there that are not 1 + 1 = 2. I know that. I know that I don't have it all figured out. I know that some of the beliefs that I have are probably 1 + 1 = 3 or 4. It's not 2, right? But we're searching for this, but it's hard to give up these beliefs once you establish them. It's really, really challenging to get rid of these. But anyway, I'll yield. I kind of went on a little bit of a rant there, so it's kind of a long explanation so we can get to some more questions.
Yeah, so there's just like, thank you. Love the rants. So there's just two things I wanted to say. One is that you reminded me of something that happened to me this morning, like at 4 o'clock in the morning. I woke up from this dream and I kept on saying, it's the Mandelbrot set. It's the Mandelbrot set. So as soon as you said Mandelbrot, it reminded me of that dream that I had. So I have to investigate that a little bit further, like what's going on with reality and how the Mandelbrot has a connection. So I wanted to ask your viewpoint related to scripts, right? So we come in, let's say the concept is we come into this world, we have our script name, which is like the name on our birth certificate, so to speak. And we have like, we can make choices, but we're really following the script. And we have that information that's being fed into us. Do you think it's possible to get to the point where you can break out of your script and ad lib? Or do you think you're forever locked into your script? There's nothing that could be done.
Well, that's a great question. So I'll have to use myself as an example. I to this day, I decode myself. And so with me as an example here, I can confidently say there is no way to break it out. You have a journey, you have a script. You may be able to choose, you know, where you go on vacation. You may be able to choose what shoes you're going to buy, you know, what kind of water brand you're going to drink. But I mean, I'll give you an example, right? To kind of tell you, and this is before I ever woke up to this information. Okay. My second to my last video, it was about, let's talk about the Phoenix event. Okay. And, you know, I have on my arm here, this whole is a sleeve, and I have 4 phoenixes on here with fire. And okay, why did I get the tattoos of phoenixes? Well, I was kind of asleep when I got them. I just liked the bird. I liked fire. And then I go all the way back, and after I got that, wasn't even in this mindset, but then I was talking to my parents one day. We were just kind of reminiscing about, you know, back in the day. And in 1977, my parents had a Pontiac Phoenix, the car. It was a silver one with a red interior. And then I have all these tattoos, and then like, what is the meaning behind this? Well, then I meet this guy named Jason Brashears from Archaics. I stumbled upon his work. Well, actually, no, I was working with Santos and the Syncretism Society, and they invited him on the show. He only had like 5,000 subscribers. He's got over 100,000 subscribers now. His growth has been crazy. But he came on the show and he had this aspect of the Phoenix event. And then I've done 3 podcasts with him on the simulation theory. So how is it that I have Phoenixes? My parents drove a Pontiac Phoenix when I was a kid. There are so many other ones, guys. I mean, I don't want to take up time talking about me, but I mean, my life is completely scripted. It has been since birth. You know, the school I went, you can decode anything if you're willing. And I have a course coming out, show people how to do this, you can see where you went to high school, is there any relevance to you having a high school mascot? What's your high school mascot? What's the latitude, longitude of your high school? What about the latitude, longitude of the city you were born in, the hospital you were in? What's the address? What's the numerology output of the hospital you were born in? You know, all these layers are all part of your journey, your scripted reality, what you're supposed to be doing. And then you bring in a heavy one is the cards of illuminate. What's your birth card? You know, I show this to people and they're like, that's probably like 95% accurate. The stuff like my friend who's been a card reader for decades, she tapped into the code and she wrote all the 52 cards out, her definitions of what they mean. And when I send people to the website to tell them what their cards are, they're like, oh, this is crazy. How is this so accurate? Well, how does a lady that doesn't even know you can describe you? Because she tapped into the code. And you can do that. You have the ability, anybody here has the ability to tap into the code. How do you do that? Well, I think one of the requisites, guys, is to let go of the static on the world stage, because that's an interference pattern in your reality. I say you're the star in your own movie. So you got both of you and me, we're all stars in the movie. And the entourage you have are your closest people in your life, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, children. That's your entourage. That's your cast of your movie. And then anybody else outside of that is an extra. So when you look at the static on the world stage, if you plug into politics, those are all extras in your movie. You can invite that in if you want to. And they want you to. They want you to be part of their movie. They want you to be an extra in their movie. And that's what most people are. They're extras in the mainstream. And they'll bitch and complain about it, and they won't do anything. They'll just feed it. So energetically, what people do is they tap into the mainstream because they love dirty laundry. It's like a fix. And then they'll feed that. Like if you tune into the presidential debates, and you're one of those millions of people tuning in, watching these two people show off on the stage, they're getting your energy. And they're going to harvest that energy and they're going to grow. They're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's why in the decoding world, for me, my supporters and the people that follow me, I tell them, forget it. Like decoding mainstream's fine, right? Because you get a sense of how this reality works. But, you know, turn off the news, turn off the static, because anything you pay attention to, you feed it. And these people at high levels, they know how magic works. If you want to grow, you got to market. Marketing is everything, right? Commercials, that's how you market. So sporting events, you know, the NCAA championship was just, you know, this past week. How many eyeballs were on that? All those people are getting energy. Where does that energy go? We can talk about that. Like, I feel like we're all little cells in a battery. So like in your car battery right now, there are cells in the battery, and without the cells, you ain't starting the car. So the battery is the hub. Well, this earth is a battery. And everybody inside this earth is a cell. You have trillions of cells in your body. That's Mandelbrot. Going down a fraction. Go study the microcosm. It's fascinating. So the single-celled organisms, the ciliates, you know, get into this stuff. This is stuff most people won't even look at. But you get into these single-celled organisms, and that's a fractal down. So it's all about the Mandelbrot set, and it's a fascinating aspect to look at. It's infinite, it's eternal, it goes down, and then you can get into these timelines. But I feel like the lightning bolt is the perfect representation of how this reality works and the journey that you are on as the star in your movie. Hopefully, if you've turned off the static and you've gotten rid of being an extra in somebody else's movie, once you become the star of your own movie by decoding yourself, figuring out what your position is here, your life path, your soul contract, all these layers, they start to tell you, like, hey, I'm a pretty big deal here. Like when I do readings for people, I do astrological, the cards, numerology. When I decode people, I'm like, man, you're like a VIP. I don't do readings for people that are just asleep. They're not interested in this kind of stuff. I only decode people that are VIPs that want to level up, they want to step up, they want to become a greater version of themselves. And I feel like that's this DNA upgrade, realizing that a lot of the information that we've been fed over the years, like this was evil and this is the devil, and that's all nonsense. I think religion is going to be going bye-bye. We don't need it. It's not necessary anymore. Essentially, we may even be getting a new boss. We may, for the age of Aquarius, the ruler of Aquarius is going to be Uranus/Saturn, but it's Uranus is the sole ruler of Aquarius. And so we leave behind the age of Pisces, which was ruled by Neptune/Jupiter. So I feel like we could be getting a new boss. And the new boss, it's like getting a new boss at work. Those of you that work at jobs, you ever have a new boss come in? Oh, what is the new boss going to be like? I don't know. I hope they're going to be nice. Well, I mean, from the Mandelbrot set, from the astrological, from the celestial or cosmology, I think that we could be getting a new boss in this reality, in the age of Aquarius. It's kind of exciting. It's exciting, the most exciting time to be alive right now as a human being. We've got a shitstorm to go through. You got there.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. And I agree, religion is getting re-examined. My personal, I'm not trying to project on anyone, but there's multipaths and there's gold nuggets in all religion, but there is also enslavement by people that want to control the religion to use it for their own means. So, and it's in its origin, the word religion, religare, is to tie back and hold and to bind. So it's like spirituality freeing to its original purpose of growth and development, and the spirit above the mind, above the emotions, above the matter, that like then constitutes our ability to know more of what's going on and the truth. Yeah, and I also agree with the Mandelbrot set. Oh, that's interesting. Infinite.
I was gonna ask you, what is that? What are we looking at?
It's a fractal. I wouldn't call it the Mandelbrot set, but it's a fractal. So.
Yeah, Mandelbrot is the word of the day, I think.
Well, I mean, even The Simpsons, they had an episode showing the Mandelbrot set. You should check it out. The Simpsons had, and this is fascinating because I decoded the creator of The Simpsons many times, Matthew Groening, and his code. Insane. Like, how do they get this stuff right? Why are the Simpsons yellow? Well, it's a representation of the sun. That's why they're yellow skinned. But The Simpsons had an episode of the Mandelbrot set, and it was the Simpsons kind of were pissed off, but that Springfield was under attack. So they go to God. And they're pissed at God, and God is like this, the beard and all. They don't show the face, but the beard, and it's just a video game. And God's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm addicted to this game called Earth," or whatever they named it.
Yeah, it's a video game. Yeah,
it's a video game. Yeah, exactly.
That's fun. Yeah, and I agree with I used to not be psychic. I used to be skeptical and other stuff. Then I learned how I had the drive to IQ is not a fixed number. You can increase it. And then I started trying different things. Massive success, even beyond what I could imagine, into these interesting fields, and being able to tune into large amounts of knowingness in the field of what is. I don't claim to be an arbiter of truth. My dream is to have a bunch of people taught in a bunch of these methods, and then we all checking each other's work, and then rise together. I do read, though, and this is again what I read, whatever, grain of salt for anyone. I do read, it does go infinitely down and infinitely up. And I'll how is that, how to conceptualize that? It is in a constant state of growth up and down. There is a point where it is in a boundary, but that is being pushed constantly with time in the growth. And how does that look in origin in the macro? At least with what I read, I call this the source within all sources, the thing deep within everything, like the Big Bang. It becomes everything in a light and energy that it from origin, compressing singularity, full spectrum, that becomes the consciousness of everyone in branches of source. When I interview that and how it goes back, it looks like it has a mysterious veil of around its creation, and it is in the game of trying to figure out what created it. And that has been going back as it gains knowledge from the game within. It has an inheritance from its creator, which it needed to. Some of the inheritance is a problem needing to be solved, like the shadow and Carl Jung, the box we put all our self-defeating programs and the negativity and stuff, and then figure out what that is. It needed a separation to quarantine that into a prime dark source and a prime light source of purity. And then they then started the chess game of polarity to figure out each other and all the things they inherited. And then they fractaled down with creations that branch off of each other. And then there's like an eventual peace merging unity process that is in the works from it. I love your tapping in a lot of what you went into. The Phoenix thing brought up a lot for me because I have also had symbolology with phoenixes. It does sound like the reality is alive and it's communicating to you with messages and things over and over again to give you a personality or focus in your direction, especially if it appears multiple times. With the Phoenix, I've looked. I also track back like mythos and like relic species and things that are supposedly not existing anymore, but like usually there's some things going on with that. The Phoenix that goes into alchemy, the sunbirds, ancient source firebird consciousness, people, souls and what they've been, at least with what I perceive, they've been other big things. And a lot of the origins of residual concepts like the bird have like these giant, massive dimensional versions of themselves. And when they're expressing themselves in grand light to people, they will perceive them and then apply mythos to those. And a lot of that is what I've seen into phoenixes. So there might be some connection there with you.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sean, like, so Logan's talking about the Phoenix and he's showing us his tattoo and talking about Jason Bashir's and all that. I'm getting that Logan has like an interesting relationship with Phoenixes in general. Did you pick up on that too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to say too much in public, but you definitely have a relationship with Phoenixes for sure.
No doubt. I mean, it's tied to the sun. I mean, the sun, the logos, if you get into the elements of the law one and, you know, Ra, a lot of it is Ra. You're going to get to the sun. The sun, if you want to go to heaven, it's the sun. My research, Ahura Mazda, probably the oldest religion on the planet, Zoroastrianism. Ahura Mazda, which means the Lord of Wisdom. It's the sun. That's why it's got the symbol of the sun. Even the Jehovah's Witness organization, the creator of that, Charles Taze Russell, 1871, one of his books, there's the winged disc on there from ancient Egypt. I mean, the JW organization is considered a New Age religion.
Yeah,
You need to rewrite the scriptures, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you that are JWs is like, I know you're going to probably consider me an apostate, right? If you know what that means, but I'm none of the above. I'm just a seeker of origins. The word origin is 19. That's the sun card in the tarot. The sun, the moon, and earth, that's the trifecta. Jesus, the Phoenix is tied to the Jesus Christ. In numerology, Gematria, Jesus Christ is 36. The word Phoenix is 36. Jesus talked about rising again, the resurrection. That's the sun. I broke down Christmas. You know, like I still kind of like, I'm programmed where I don't really do the holidays because it's easier not to. I've had so much experience not doing, but whatever, right? But then when I decoded Christmas last year, I realized what it really means. And what it really means is to celebrate being a human being. That's it. The as above is the sun, the celebration of it rising on December 25th. Astrologically, the sun dies on December 22nd, and then it stays there, and then it rises out of the tomb on the 23rd, 24th, and the 25th, it moves 1 degree north of the ecliptic. And now you have the rising of the sun, the resurrection of the sun. So the as above is the sun. That's the great beast above. The magic square of the sun is 666. And then the beast below is mankind, which is carbon. Now you get into alchemy, and carbon has the 666, 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. Okay.
Yeah,
So we
exactly.
are carbon based.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And
Market
that's if you want to talk about the rising of the Phoenix, I feel like we're all being a part of that. You know, if you look at an egg, you know, if you're a consumer of an egg, that's the earth. Earth is an egg. The firmament is the egg shell. Inside the egg, there's what's called the vitellus, which is otherwise known as the yolk, which is yellow. That's the sun. What is the job of the vitellus inside of an egg? It feeds the embryo once the embryo starts to develop, once the chicken incubates it through heat. And then after day 21, you now have an embryo. So eggs have no animal inside of it when you get it at the store. None. There's no embryo in there. It's a byproduct. But it's telling you the Mandelbrot, the fractal on Earth it's coming out of a chicken. When then you get into the rooster, and the rooster, what is its job? It tells you when the sun comes up. It's all sun reference. But the egg yolk is the sun. And inside of our reality, the sun feeds us. Photosynthesis. Without the logos, man, you know, we rely on the sun, vitamin D, the transference of that energy. The sun is the logos. So if you ask me, like, what is, like, if you go to Judaism, what's the Yod He Vav He? The sun. What's Jesus Christ? The sun. What's Lucifer? The sun. What's Ahura Mazda? The sun. What's Allah in Islam? The sun. It's really easy to see, and that's perfect in an egg. So inside the egg is the representation of Earth. And I feel like through the golden age to the dark age, our job as human beings is to create. Besides experience, besides the knowledge and downloading information and wanting to know how this reality works, we're creators. We create. And if, I say, stop being a complainer and go out there and create. Most people like to complain, and they give off energy that way. Complaining and bickering, they feed the negative side, which it'll gladly take. But then you get out someone out there who's I'm going to go create a business. I'm going to go create a startup company. I'm going to go create this. I'm going to go create a baby. Create. This reality needs people to move forward. If all human beings got wiped out, what would happen to the planet that we live on? Well, that we get a break. The ecosystem is derived around predator-prey. It's derived around killing. I mean, I say, I've said this so many times to my audience, we're all stone cold killers. Every time you walk outside, you're killing something when you step on, like, you're not paying attention to the insects. You're stepping on ants, you're stepping on spiders, you're stepping on crickets, bugs, et cetera, et cetera. You're not paying attention to that, but you're a killing machine, but you don't even pay any attention to it. Well, those insects have families too, right? Those insects have, well, it's an ugly universe. It's an ugly reality if you really look at it. It's all killing. It's death and regeneration, death constantly. Inside your body, you have the cells, apoptosis, self-suicide, constantly being regenerated. Your skin's being regenerated, death and regeneration. Your liver, regeneration. Your kidneys, regeneration. Death and regeneration. That's what our reality is. And it's always in the now moment. It's eternal, infinite. It never stops. We just go through these ages. It defines how we live out as a human being species. And the age of Pisces was heavily favored into religion. Okay, Jesus, if you look at the whole story, the story of the Christ, when you look at an astrological map, you'll see the age of Pisces is house number 12, and directly across the way, forming a symbiotic relationship, is house number 6. What is the 6th zodiac sign? Virgo. What is Virgo? The virgin. What was Jesus born? Of a virgin. So he was born of a virgin, and across the way is Pisces. And what is Pisces? The 2 fish. Well, what was Jesus? He was a fisherman of men. It's right there. And then you take the 12 and the 6, you bring it together. That's 126 alchemy. That's iodine, the I. Iodine is 126 for its atomic mass. So you can bridge all these layers, and you can clearly start to see we live in a scripted reality, and it's a movie set. It's a lot of fun. But if you become a creator, a co-creator, instead of complaining, and you turn off the static, your life, you level up. You get a DNA upgrade. That's, I think, a lot of people are doing. They're like, forget the news. I mean, the stories become so ridiculous now. Like, I was watching, I don't know if you guys are a fan of stand-up comedy, but Jim Brewer did a stand-up skit on the spy balloon, the Chinese spy balloon that just got shot down over Montana. And it was so hilarious because he's like, dude, the news is so ridiculous now. having you trying to buy into the, and that's magic spells. That's marketing. The news is marketing. They need your energy. When you turn into the news, you're feeding it. You're making it, you're helping it grow. When you go and log on to CNN.com, you're feeding it. So if we want to change this reality, if we want to move towards the golden age, which we're going to anyway, inevitably, well, then people are waking up. They're realizing, wait a minute, I am Jesus Christ. I'm having the Jesus Christ superstar experience. I'm carrying my cross. There is no such thing as paganism and all that. Forget all that nonsense. Go back to nature and realize that you're a star in this movie. You're essentially Truman Burbank. They did a great job telling you all about that. The Truman Show. Waking up and really, wait, why am I having this fear? He had a fear of water, aquaphobia. Well, we're fish down here, right? We're fish down here swimming in a fishbowl. Two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl. Thank you, Pink Floyd. I broke down that song. Wish you were here. There's so much symbology in these bands, and it's really beautiful, guys, when you really look at this and you can just release the static and say, you know what, I don't want to be a part of that movie anymore. I'm going to be a part of my own movie. I'm going to make the truth my own. And I guess I'll leave you with this, and we'll move on to another question. Chris, since you were a JW, they had a long list of songs that you would sing before each
Make the truth your own.
That's it, brother. Number song, and the Make the Truth Your Own is really where it's at. And I started saying this to my audience, and then I was like, I got to decode this. What song number is it? 56. And then the words lights, camera, action, and numerology equal 56. So obviously it's telling you that you're creating your movie, and it could possibly be that everybody living today is the center of the universe. And what you say and what you adopt as your beliefs, you make that true. You make that reality. You end up going off and you're creating now the experience called life. So that's why I tell people especially when I do readings, you are the only thing that matters. That's it. You got to put yourself on a pedestal, not being egoic, not thinking you're better than somebody else. Putting yourself on that pedestal and say, I mean something, but you don't mean something when you're an extra in someone else's movie. Now then you give away your power. So you're a VIP. I'm here to tell you, all of you listening, you're a VIP. Start acting like it. Start acting like a star in your own movie. And you'll end up leveling up. But there are requisites, and part of that is turning off the dirty laundry. Stop blaming the organization like it's their fault. It's them. It's they. Stop doing that, because you're feeding it when you do that. When you have conversations, oh yeah, did you hear about this and that? You're feeding it. Essentially, you're feeding it through magic spells. Their thoughts are magic spells. Start paying attention to the voice in your head and be a creator instead of a complainer. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, that's as you were talking, I had so many thoughts in my mind for things to go a little bit further and deeper into some of the topics you were talking about. But that whole concept of showtime, like what you were mentioning from the song in the Jehovah's Witness songbook and so forth. I was recently decoding a famous Mandela effect about Looney Tunes. So there are these cartoons used to be called Looney Tunes, Toons, but now it's always been tunes, Tunes. Same frequency, the word sounds the same.
Phonetically, yeah.
But it has a different meaning. So when I was looking into that, I won't go into all the details here. I'm actually creating a video about this. But basically it has to do with timelines and how we're on the 333rd timeline, and all the other ones we've been practicing. That's why we have deja vu, because we've been remembering the dress rehearsal, and now we're on the final timeline. And even the Looney Tunes Bugs Bunny song goes overture, curtain lights, this is it, we'll hit the heights, and oh, what heights we'll hit, on with the show, this is it. There's no more rehearsing or nursing our parts. We know every part by heart. So you can start, like you're saying, you can start digging down and seeing clues and meanings almost everywhere you look. And all the soft disclosure in movies is it's mind-blowing. It's either the truth or a distortion of the truth. But either way, it's almost like the Matrix has to give you, it has to, even as fantastical as it might sound, it has to give you the clues. You can't say, we never told them, it was their fault that they stayed asleep the whole time. But yeah, and then the concept of VIPs, player characters, is another way of looking at it. We're the players on the stage. We're the VIPs, exactly. So, it's time for all of us to wake up and play our parts the way we want to play them.
Yeah, Rush did the great band Rush did a great job on their album called Moving Pictures, a moving picture. We're pictures. But that album had a song called Limelight, Living in the Limelight, the universal dream for those of us to see, right? All the world's a stage and we are merely players. I went to their website, I went to their YouTube channel and I grabbed their official video of that song Limelight. And I broke down the lyrics and the timeline of when he started to sing these layers. And it's mind blowing. I haven't released that decode yet. I've did some snippets on it, but like Geddy Lee, I mean, of course, Geddy Lee, he's Jewish, right? And so there's a lot of reference to the Tetragrammaton. There really, really is. I mean, even I broke down the word baby. Those of you that have children, I broke down baby decoded. And I showed like the main construct of a baby is you got the baby, the umbilical cord, and the placenta. The placenta is the yolk. It's the egg. It's the vitellus that feeds the baby, which is the embryo. Same thing, just different fractal. Well, the word placenta is the number 30 when you break it down in numerology, which is the same outcome for the word demiurge, which is the same outcome for the New Age name for the Yod, which is Jehovah. That's a 30. So you know that whatever's running this reality is tied to these titles of whatever religion you follow. And it owns them all. I mean, Kabbalah, you have the Ein Sof, which is the infinite. It's the same thing packaged differently. That's all it is, ladies and gentlemen. So there's no more rhyme or reason to argue about who's God, who's got it right. Just do you. And when you allow people to do them, it stops the division and it unifies people. And it stops the disturbance and it creates a field peaceful and bliss, a solace, if you will. But we can't get there by tuning into the mainstream, by giving energy to their movie. That movie is just, it's old. It's kind of worn out. It's like a car that has like 350,000 miles on it, right? It's ready to break down. So we're about ready to have, seemingly, I'm not saying this is going to be absolute, whatever it is that you believe, but it's seemingly in my reality, we're going to have a collapse of some big things to make room for this new age coming in. And there's nothing to fear. It may get tough, but they're going to be, as they say, light at the end of the tunnel. I think we're going to have to get through this to make it out, to have the reward is a lot of bliss. That's the reward. And I think a lot of these concepts will go bye-bye. Like I said, religion and the age of Aquarius is I know thyself. When you know yourself, you don't need to go be told who you are. You don't need to go, like worship something to be saved. Like that whole concept was just fascinating. I mean, the Passover was just, it was just taking place, right? Why do they do, the Passover, even for the JW organization, the Passover is done when the moon's position is. Now you're talking about paganism, which they're totally against, but they're doing it through paganism because that's the worship of nature. It's just such a contradiction. So that's why we get rid of these concepts and realize, like, just do you. If you want to go become involved in some organization, great. That's what makes you happy. If that's what gets you high, that's what gets you off. If you think you need that, great. But I feel like a lot of the concepts that we've been programmed, being born in the age of Pisces, are going to be removed from this reality. So it's exciting times coming ahead. I think a lot of change coming for us, which is going to be great.
Yeah, I agree with you with the reward of bliss and the greatest state of bliss, nirvana, and the pathway towards it with detachment and letting go of all that's not us, and the purification of the mind, the ego, to the original one, unfettered mind, in the state of enlightenment. And yeah, for sure. And we're all working towards it as we discover and unveil the truths from what is hidden in the deceptions and the because what we're gonna eventually do in a show is like, negative lies and disillusions and deceptions are parasitic. They take energy from you and part of a system, and that's a way we can discover what is not true anymore. And as well, when you were saying with the placenta broke down with the demiurge, and I also go into that, and the archon grid, and the saddle put over the natural incarnating grid of Earth, and the corruption of things with like, at least with what I read, a huge collapse of ancient civilizations like Atlantis, and then the invasion of more darkness into this reality that then is the thing that we're incarnating here to retake back the planet for light. The placenta breaking is the time when we are exiting our own dream bubble of protected space of knowing and planning what we're going to be doing the lifetime in a chess game coming forward. And as soon as the placenta breaks, all this attachment and parasitic entanglement from the dream reality of the realm that we're coming into attaches to us and tries to limit and write contracts and negative scripts for us that aren't of our free will, as we want to purify the script towards our actual true positive planning intention. Yeah, and like things with the archons and the whole negative system. Beautifully put, as you would say. And I just want to like go into like some initial value in like the floor plan for numerology and things like 0 like being the womb for people in the audience, and the place of creation, which is a lot of what numbers come off of. It is the ability to create. It's a very sacral energy. So also 1 is the initial explosion of light, the seed, the beginning, decision, self-centering, assertive action, standing alone. This is just a little bit, but there's way more than this to meaning. 2, the incubation of the seed, partnership, sex, the magic, the balance, instinct, behind the scene activity, the polarity of everything. 3, the growth of the seed, the expansion of the cells dividing. The framework of like pyramids can like hold up the most in structure, expansion, birth, growth, creativity, optimism, and then it goes forward. And there's like different coding to it, but I've never met anyone that's coded all that the numbers can bring forth. And I wanted to ask you some stuff because I've read it. I've been reading into how gematria and numerology and knowing the coded understanding of numbers can be applied in a magic or expansion of your life or evolution. So like I'll just like ask you one on the list, and then I'll keep going with each time after you talk.
Yeah.
What do you think of, how do you usually decode like the consciousness, okay, sorry, the consciousness of numbers themselves, as if they're like the expression starting from when they first started and came into existence and experience, and then evolved in what they're used for, the consciousness of numbers themselves. How do you see the numbers? Do you feel they have a consciousness?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have said this so many times. That's how I observe being a fan of numerology, the science of numbers. I feel like all numbers are archetypes. Essentially, everything's an archetype, right? Like this pen, it's an archetype. You go to a church, it's an archetype. So numbers are archetypes. So imagine like the 0 walks to, hey, 0, what's up? Hey, the number 1, what's the, like if you look at the dial pad on your calculator or your phone, you place a pyramid over that dialing pad, which is Saturn's magic square. The number that's going to sit in the middle is going to be the number 5. That's why you got 5 fingers, 5 toes. 5 is the identity of man. The archetype 5 is the only number that looks like the letter S. And the letter S is the 19th letter, and the 19th card of the tarot is the sun. So the sun is the as above and the so below. We're the sons and daughters of the sun. We're the spirit into matter. And that's the 5. 5, if you have a 5 life path, well, you're somebody who's the adventurer. You're out there to experience life in all its totality. You need a lot of space. You need a lot of room. You're probably extrovert. You don't have to be, but you're going to want to get out there, and your job as a soul contract, as a 5, as an archetype 5, is to experience life, to go on the adventure, say, hey, I'll sign up for that. I'll go do that. You're for the first in line to do it, because 5 is it's the sun in man's form. The 5th house of astrology is Leo, the lion. The lion works for the pride. What is pride? It's ego. 5 is your ego. It's if you study the word, resurrection and then erection. Well, it's the rection and then erection is E. I have an erection. Well, what is E? 5. It's your identity as a male. The erection is the phallus. It's the male identity. Right? These words, there's just, when you start to look at them, it's pretty easy to see. But then you bring in the other layers of astrology. They tell you that the tarot, it's the hierophant. It's the guru. 5. So the archetype 5, essentially the sun has an identity. It's the 5. The card that links to the 5 is going to link to the sun. In Chinese, it's this dragon. In the Chinese astrological map, the sign of Leo, the lion, is the dragon. And what is the dragon? The sine and cosine wave. It's the sun. It's light.
Year of the Dragon is next year.
That's right. 2024. And I got a decode on the age of Aquarius coming out, and it's tied to that. So 2024 could be a very, very pivotal year for all of us as a species.
I agree with that.
This year into 2024, I see a lot of change unlike mankind's ever seen. 2024. That's kind of what I see. We're going to see a lot of, like in the tarot right here, this is the Tower card. You're going to see a lot of Tower moments. The Tower being destructive, the Tower being tied to the Tower of Babel.
Pluto
right now is in the sign of Aquarius. I'm sorry, it's in the sign of Capricorn. Pluto's in the sign of Capricorn right now through sidereal, through Vedic astrology, which maps to astronomy. If you're a fan of Western, that's totally fine. But Western astrology does not sync up with the map of the stars right now. It's going to be 24 degrees ahead. Why is Western astrology accurate? Because people put their faith in it. People put their ideas into it. And they have essentially made Western astrology real by speaking about it. It's magic. That's how magic works. Abracadabra.
I did read that Vedic astrology was more powerful. So
it's not that it's, I mean, you could say that. Absolutely. You could definitely put up a good argument. I think both are true, but it's because of magic. But if you want to get into the accuracy, if you're like me, 1 + 1 = 2, and you want to get into the finite, sidereal Vedic astrology is going to be the root. For sure. For sure.
I agree.
So we have a lot of change coming. Pluto being in Capricorn. Capricorn is time. So when Pluto, the destroyer, moves into time, it's going to alter and change that, which could be the reason why you're having this the Mandela effect going on. Because Pluto's job is the wrecking ball. Pluto comes in, and the job of Pluto as an archetype is to remove deadwood. And I would say that causes an interference pattern. And it's in the 21st Nakshatra, which is tied to the world card, which is, tied to it's Enter the Dragon. That's what Pluto right now is in a position right now. Oh, wow. It's in a position right now for the next till 2039. It's going to be here. So, we have a lot of years coming down the pike of a lot of change, a lot of disruption, a lot of disruption. So it could get a little bumpy. Could get a little challenging and tough. But if you're willing to kind of, withstand the disruption and just know that it's part of the movie, you'll have a little bit, probably a better experience than the people they'll freak out. Most people on this plane of existence, they're like the extras in the movie. And that's just the way it is for them. Like I'm grateful that I'm not an extra in the movie anymore. I used to be.
Yeah.
I used to be. So it makes me, I look at somebody and I'm not somebody like, you're asleep and you're a sheep. And I don't do that because I was there once.
Yep.
I look at that and I'm super grateful that I'm not there anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's a leveling up experience. That's a DNA upgrade because now you're living a life of what I call neutrality. Neutrality meaning that you don't pay attention to their movie anymore. Like I'm neutral to it. Like I see your movie, but it's not in my catalog to watch. Not really interested in any, like politics. It's a show. It's a movie.
It's a show.
It's a show. Yeah.
It's a
The
bad
show
show.
must go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's the numbering aspect, is each number is an archetype for sure. That's why numerology is so important. Gematria is great. It's an entry-level decoding tool, but it's a dead end, because if you're just sitting there with how most people are taught, they use 4 different ciphers and they're like, oh my God, I found a connection here and a connection there. And like the number 9 is the repeater number. So that's why all these ciphers will work. The 9, then 9 is, the repeater, the great repeater number, the archetype of the repeater, 9.
Okay.
Interesting. Was born on February 9th.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're Aquarius too. I mean, Capricorn, excuse me. Aquarius in the Western, but Capricorn in the sidereal.
Oh man. If Chris, if you got any questions, that's fine. Did you?
I just have a comment or two, but that's.
Yeah, go ahead and make a comment.
I would this is totally random, but before we were talking about Jehovah's Witnesses and apostasy and that whole concept, just so that you know, I was actually excommunicated / disfellowshipped.
Okay.
My charges were apostasy, and I was like, you can't disfellowship me, for this. And they said it was because I was asking questions. I'm like, you can't do that for someone asking questions. And they said, yes, we can, when you ask the wrong questions.
Okay.
So I'm one of those people that just kept, I got to a certain point in my life where I just wanted to find answers. And then when I actually was able to break free of that religion, then things started to open up more. But when you're kind of confined, it's a lower frequency, I don't have to tell you, but when you can go to another level and then your consciousness can expand, then all these other things become apparent. And it's difficult because shunning is a hard thing. So when your family has to shun you and all your friends you grew up with, no one will call you back, no one will talk to you. It's a very difficult thing. And that's a measure of control. So unfortunately, a lot of religions will use some degree of control to control their members and keep them in line, so to speak. So if anyone's listening to this and they're still part of that religion, I want to let you know from my own experience, it's trust yourself. If you have legitimate questions, you should be able to ask those questions without fear of being shunned. And if you are, that shows there's something wrong going on over there. So
yeah, totally. Like I said, I have nothing against it. My mom's still, 43 years and still doing it, which is, that's her life. I mean, that's a belief. So when you have 40 plus years of something you believe, something you've devoted to,
absolutely,
it's going to be very challenging to break away and say, I'm not doing it anymore, because it's a habit. People that have been doing that, whatever religion, Baptist, you have a habit of going and supporting that archetype. And then if your beliefs get completely smashed to pieces and you're having to look at it from a perspective of questioning it, and you got 40 years invested into it, which is going to win? All of us have habits right now. Some of you have habits that you've been doing for a very long time, and you're not willing to give up those habits. And they could be the death of you quicker, right? If you can work out and you don't work out, I say, that's selfish, right? But it's a habit of not working out. Working out for me is a habit, but not working out, those of you that don't work out, that's a habit too. Habits are what make or break us, really. Eventually you're going to die. Just how quickly you're going to get there. The decay rate of how you're going to get there is real. And I feel the oldest ancient text out there, if you study your research, and it's not even a religion, it's Hinduism. That's the oldest. That is the oldest that I found online. And it's not even a religion. They don't consider it a religion. And then everything branched off from there, right? The oldest text being Hinduism. And I feel it's so beautiful. You have the Vedas, and then you get Krishna. Krishna is the Christ. Pretty simple, which is the sun. Krishna's 19, the sun card is the 19th card in the tarot. It's pretty obvious what we're talking about here. So it's just a matter of like, whatever you think is the truth, go, like I use the song 56, make the truth your own. That's what that song means. Like, you can't say I got the truth. That's why that's so funny. The JW's like, are you in the truth?
I know,
Are you in
like,
the truth?
exactly, like truth, like the truthers, like nothing against anyone seeking truth, but
Right.
I was brought up like you, like this is the truth. We are truthers. So
Yep.
yeah, that phrase is.
But you can't take a word and say, well, I have my way is the only way. Like I, growing up as a JW, I did a lot of judging. I had a habit of judging people, and I didn't even say anything I was thinking it.
Of course.
You're looking at somebody and you're like, man, this person's going to die.
You're going to die in Armageddon.
They don't have the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
That's judging.
Exactly.
And everybody, I would say, I'm sure there's exceptions, but I would say a lot of people that are in their religion, they judge. They don't say it, but they judge because that's how they're programmed. Like, if you're not following Christ, if you don't take Jesus as your savior, you're not going to make it. Well, says what? Wow. And then if I show you, well, do you know that Jesus is Horus and it's Egyptian Book of the Dead? Have you ever made those connections? I don't study that stuff. That's demon stuff. Right. Okay, suit yourself, man. But that's the derivative of the Holy Bible is the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Exactly.
It's moral code, Hermeticism,
yeah, all that stuff. So I just feel like, again, I'll go back to what I started with originally in the beginning of this, is I feel like life is like a lightning bolt. And the bolt that comes down, it branches off. And that's the truth. And then we call it the distortion. I don't think we use these adjectives, but I feel like it's just the subject. The subject is the lightning bolt. Is the branching off of the lightning bolt, is that still part of the lightning bolt? Yeah, but it's not as powerful as the bolt coming through the middle. The bolt coming through the middle is the brightest and the strongest. That's the now moment. That's the pulse of light. And then anything outside that branches off is a derivative of that. And it can be, we can now use adjectives, but it's still the subject. So when you say, well, they're lying to me and I'm being duped and it's them, it's that they're doing their job. Did you know that? Like, these people on the world stage, not everybody incarnated to be freaking Yoda. Not everybody incarnated to be a good guy.
Exactly. It'd be a boring movie.
That's a tough pill to swallow. Yeah. I mean, do you think a fish is a fan of the shark? I mean, do you think that the rose bushes are a fan of the aphids that invade and eat their leaves? I mean, the ladybug, the beautiful ladybug, is a stone cold killer. It eats aphids alive. I wouldn't want to be an aphid. That'd be a horrible death. It's all death and rejection. It's all predator prey. People can't wrap their minds around this. They just, I don't know. I've done Landmark. I don't know if you guys have ever done Landmark. I'm a huge fan of Landmark. And I love what Werner Erhard said. He said, life is empty and meaningless. And I feel like that's the case. What do I mean by that? Well, it doesn't matter. My life doesn't matter. When I die, life's going to go on. There's going to be a new set of circumstance, new set of people coming to replace me. You're disposable. As high and mighty as people think they are, like I have a lot of people coming to me, they're the Messiah. Oh my God, it's amazing how many people come out and they claim I'm no chosen one. The people need to follow me. And I'm like, okay, dude, well, I'm going to put you in a room with 100 other people that say the same thing. You guys can fight it out.
Yeah, exactly.
I know a lot of people that think they're Jesus.
Yeah, that's totally, well, essentially we all are. The Jesus Christ Superstar, they had an opera, the play, because that's what you are Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ means the embodiment of being the spirit into matter, the son coming down to play the game called life. That's what it means.
Yeah, he's an embodiment of everything and everyone.
That's it, man. Everything and anything in this reality is the embodiment of the logos. I mean, if you study the law of one material, you're going to get the logos and then sub-logoses. So this is a logos, but it's a sub-logos of the logos above. And I mean, Ra is such a big influence if you look at the mainstream, and you could bring alchemy into this. You look at the largest and most strongest military in the world, the headquarters is on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, which is called the White House. And then you have the largest collector of artificial intelligence called Google. What is their address? 1600 Amphitheater Way in Mountain View, California. So you have the largest collection of artificial intelligence, Google, which has an address of 1600. And then you have the largest military at the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. What's up with the 1600? Well, go to alchemy in the periodic table. The element on the periodic table that has a half-life of 1600 years is radium, which is called Ra. So now you get into bridging the gap with alchemy and the mainstream and ancient Egypt. You now have the sun god Ra, the Logos, the sun, which is why the government in the United States, anyway, they put their hand on the Bible, because the Bible is the sun worship. That's why they inaugurate the presidents with their hand on the Bible. That's why religion and government and state are all one and the same. It's the Logos. Right. It's really simple to see this stuff.
Yeah.
Really, really simple. Radium being 88 protons, 88 being tied to time travel, 88 being tied to the torus field and the hourglass that we live in, the days of our lives. Remember that soap opera? Like the sands of the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
Interesting, because I was going to ask you, there's so many things that we have, we'll have to have another show with you, because there's something to do with the 8. It's not Back to the Future. It's not 88 Back to the Future, but it's something to do with the Hindenburg, and 62 survivors and 62 successful flights. But that we could talk about that another time. Sean, I know you have at least one more question, so you probably have 20 more questions. But
yeah, right. Yeah, I'll have to save it. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, for your sessions, career, what you read for people, in the difference between other gematria and numerologists and other people that would read things for people. How do you decode people's numbers, etc., for them? And you went into the meaninglessness of nature. What do you think meaning is, and the effect, cause and effect with numbers?
Yeah, well, meaning is what you give it. That's it. So meaning is what you give this reality. It's all the beliefs that you've collected in your mind. That's the meaning of life for you.
Conscious intention.
Correct. Conscious intention. That'd be a great.
Is it more meaningful if the creator involved in whatever the energy of the reality is constructed is given, and then that's applied in a timeline? And if other people get involved, and then the creator doesn't tell the meaning of those systems, and it's for people to discover? Or is it also the people engaged in the system that's already created also applying meaning to it?
Well, I mean, let's just simplify it, right? Just simplify it. It's the meaning of life. Meaning. What is meaning? Well, if you look at it from the perspective of you being a star in your own movie, when I do readings for people, I tell them, this is a time that we're going to spend together, that I want you to look at yourself as a VIP. I want you to realize how great you are. I want you to realize the importance of your life. Many people don't do, I'm a huge fan of Bob Proctor. He says most people are extras in somebody else's movie. That's kind of where I got that from. So big shout out to Bob Proctor. He was doing his job. He did a great job at motivating people to step up and become better versions of themselves by the mechanics of how this reality works. He was dialed in, right? But that was his job. That was what he incarnated for. So I postulated this, I've broken down so many people, places, and things, bands, just so many, and why? How come I didn't get that? I used Tom Brady because he has 7 Super Bowls. 7 Super Bowls. Well, how come I didn't get to be Tom Brady? Well, why did I have to be Logan? Why did you have to be Chris? And then you say, well, okay, so then now you're just accept the fact that you are who you are. Now it's time to accelerate. Now it's time to level up. The only way to do that is to release the garbage, the nonsense in your life. You got to you can't confine yourself in a box to be free. So once you adopt something as an archetype, like a religion, it's great to have it as a base, but to box yourself in and say, my way is the only way and that way is wrong, is you confine yourself in a box. You essentially put yourself into the cube. This is squaring the circle.
Ooh.
Square is 18 in numerology. Circle is 17 in numerology. Circle being Earth. Earth is 17 in numerology. Circle is 17 in numerology. Life is 17 in numerology. Matrix is 17 in numerology. And the star card in the tarot is all of us. So these, these numbering systems that I'm a huge fan of, they integrate and they branch off, again, the lightning bolt. So you have the pill, which is light. So the essence of this game of life is this. It's the logo, it's the sun. And then it comes down and you now have the light bringer, the light of the world, Jesus, Lucifer, whatever you want to call it. Get rid of all of the, it's the devil. No, the devil is time. That's the devil. Because over time you will sin. It's inevitable that we're sinning machines. And then we beat ourselves up because, oh, I did something wrong, or you did that wrong. Well, you're a bit like, okay, Chris, you're shunned. They made a decision. Well, that's the governing body, which is a patriarch. There's no women involved in there. That's a red flag right there if I've ever seen one. But that's my opinion. But they made rules to decide, and you're in their group. So they made the rules. You have to follow their rules because they created the group.
Absolutely.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the same with the governments. Like if I had the ability to go to a deposition and make a choice on who I wanted to rule over me, it certainly wouldn't be the government right now. I would be checking off all the boxes against that. Like, I don't want to be part of this. Nope, 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 nope. Leave me alone. I don't want to be part of your movie. But that's not the way this reality works. So then you got to take into consideration what's running this reality, what's running the governments. Well, it's the same thing that created this reality. It has to be. You can't say, well, it's the devil running it, but that's not what created this reality. What? I mean, if you created this reality, would you let anything interfere with your vision? Like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you have kids and your child called you on the phone and it was in an accident, and maybe their arm got busted up or something, you, as a parent, you'd freak out. You'd be hightailing it over to the accident to help your kid out. Right away, you wouldn't even hesitate. Well, that's not how this reality works. That's not what the creator of this reality, it ain't running out to help people. You're on your own. So to say that there's some devil down here and, it's running the show, and it's so nonsensical. Even if you bring theology into it, Isaiah 45 verses 7, if you're one of those people say, no, the devil is, God's letting the devil run this. Why would you let something run amok in your reality and hurt all these people? Well, Isaiah 45:7, it says, I create evil and darkness. Why would you create a guy named Job and kill off his entire family? Why would you put someone through that? These are things that people I don't know, man. People don't think about in a heavily based aspect of the age of Pisces, which is the age of Christianity. The vision of Daniel, if you're a fan of that, I mean, that's the new kingdom coming in. What is the new kingdom? The age of Aquarius. That's all it is. You're doing one half of the perfect circle. The vision of Daniel, the king Nebuchadnezzar, the gold, it's all alchemy: gold, silver, brass, which is copper, iron and clay, which is calcium, which is the bones. You're having now a stone's going to come. What does that mean? The new age is coming in. You got to be prepared for it.
You're talking about like that statue from the book of Daniel?
Absolutely. It's alchemical and it's astrological. So you're going from the golden age to the dark age. The feet represent the dark age, Pisces. So the mixing of the clay and iron, which will not work, is the mixing of the age of Aries and the age of Pisces. It's not going to work because you're at the end of a 180-degree circle. And the age of Aquarius is going to be the starting over point of a new kingdom, a new age, a new earth, a new heaven and a new earth. It's pretty easy to see. It's so beautiful. And these ancient texts, they derive from, God, you can go back to the Egyptian Book of the Dead, then you can go back to ancient Sumeria, you get into Enki and Enlil, and you can get into Anu and the Anunnaki.
Right.
Anunnaki is 26 in numerology. Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh is 26 in numerology. Enki and Enlil is 30. Jehovah's 30. Where do you go with this stuff? It's a Ponzi scheme. That's my final answer. We live in a Ponzi scheme. And this game needs players, meaning that if it needs you, it needs your energy. Just like the cells in your battery, the cells are necessary for the battery to charge up, for you to turn the key and your engine to start. This reality called Earth needs you as a player. It needs you to give off emotions. It needs you to create, to experience this reality.
Absolutely.
And I feel like the players at the top of the level, Tom Brady, whoever, a big political person, do you think their mind's their own? I say no. I say they're being manipulated, not in a bad way.
I agree. There's like a puppeting thing with evil.
Absolutely is. Because when you're a creator of this reality, you want to control it, you want to run it, you want to have it your way. And, just maybe the Masons, life is but a dream. I broke that down. Life is but a dream. Merrily, merrily, row, row, row your boat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I broke all that down. Life is but a dream decoded. I broke it all down. And we may just be living inside the dream of the cosmos. It's having a dream.
Yes, we're in a dream. And can we lucid dream in our own dream? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And lucid dream, lucid, Lucifer, Lucy. That's why these words, luminescence, Lu, it's tied to Lucifer, the light bringer.
Fascinating.
My original question was, how do you, as opposed to other decoders, for audience, if they're looking to get a session from you, how do you decode for a person? What would you be doing for them?
Tools, yeah, tool-wise. Well, I use the human design, gene keys. I bring that into it. I use numerology, breaking down your name, the single digits, what numbers are predominant in your life, your soul contract, your life path, which is kind of, a position that's unavoidable, your ego, and then the astrological signs through Western and sidereal. I put them side by side. I have graphics, share my screen throughout the entire session, and then bringing the tarot into it. What's your rising sign tarot card? What's your playing card? Most people have 4, 5, 6 playing cards attached to them. What do those mean? You can take the playing cards, put them inside the astrological map. You can take alchemy, put it inside the astrological map. So these are all layers that I bring. I look a lot into the goddess Athena, which is called Pallas, the asteroid Pallas, which is like, where's that located in your chart? Because that's how your mind's going to perceive this reality, what kind of wisdom you have coming down through whatever house it was in. And then, you got to take into consideration the current map of the astrological positions right now as well, and what these things can mean for you as portals, as entry points, as timings to, when you become aware of this reality, you can start to do things on these timelines. But you got to know your code. You got to know who you are as a human being in order to really kind of level up and have a better experience. Like, you got to decode yourself. And that's what I do with my readings. I spend, my average reading's 3 hours. So I'll tell you, it's not an hour session. It's a long session.
Okay.
But I don't know anybody else that brings, I bring the playing cards in, I put it into the astrological map. I don't know any other reader that does that. So it's kind of like a niche that I've kind of discovered. And you could start to see where your dominant layers are through astrology tied to the cards of illumination and tarot, and get the picture. I love the tarot because you get the picture of what we're looking at, besides just the abstract thinking part of it.
Wow. And all for the reasonable price of how much is you usually charge for?
Well, I have 3 readings. My number 1 and number 2 readings, that's actually the full 3-hour reading. The number 1 reading, I'm phasing these out. I'm coming out with a course, and I don't really want to do reading. I'll probably do them case by case, but I'm coming out with a course which will revolutionize the way we look at ourselves. I feel like it will. You're never going to never need to get another reading again when you go and use the system. It will be affordable for everybody. That's another reason why I'm coming out with that, because my number 1 reading is $8.99. My number 2 reading is $5.99. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, that's a lot of money. Yeah, but what I give you is, for me, I don't really second guess any of that kind of stuff. And then I have a tarot card reading, which is my number 3 reading, and that's $279. And that gives you an indication. We read from your now energy, pull 13 cards, which is your eye, and we take a look at what kind of energies you're looking at right now. moving into the future a little bit, moving into the past a little bit, and focusing on the now moment for your energy expressions.
And what is, for those that don't know, what's your website? How will they?
CosmicSugar.org. CosmicSugar.org.
What inspired that name?
It just came to me. It just came to me. I thought, sugar's kind of cool because everybody likes sugar, and cosmic is, speaks for itself. So I don't know, it just came, the voice in my head that rules over me.
It's one of those names too that's easier to remember because it's so unique.
It is. It's unique. It's easy to remember. It's fun. It's fun. Yeah. So it's cool. I just came out with my clothing line. I have a CosmicSugar.store, which kind of supports, people want to support me a little bit. So I got t-shirts.
Is that where I could buy a vintage human shirt?
Yeah. You can buy this one on my CosmicSugar.store.
Okay.
And I got free shipping, any orders over $50. I barely make anything on there, just supports my mission. I'm not gouging people, not charging $40 for a t-shirt, $20, $25. That's it. Free shipping over $50. I got mugs, I got hats. A lot of these memes I've come up with this myself. This is just fun, me being an artist, just fun stuff to become the best human being you can be. As I say, be the best little devil you can be down here.
What kind of material is that made out of? Is your t-shirt?
These t-shirts are, I wouldn't sell them if I didn't believe in them. Like, I've bought all the t-shirts on my website. I have them all. Like, so it's this right here is my vintage category. There's under vintage classic, and it is a blend of cotton and polyester. I think there's a little rayon, like 2% in here. But these are very soft and very fitting. This is probably my best t-shirt that I'm wearing right here. But I also have my classic, which are very good as well. So you really can't go wrong with any of them. But this is my the vintage apparel.
I'm looking at one of your shirts right now, pretending to be human.
Yeah, that's my the tagline I came up with.
Yeah, I like
these
that.
Are fun, right? These are fun taglines to just be different.
Conversation starters.
Conversation starters, just be different. Limited edition humans, kind of one of my favorites. It's just are you limited edition? Like, these are things that I think are fun for people to have this DNA upgrade, to become a better version of themselves. It's time. It's time for us to do that. We're moving into this age. It's not going to be an overnight sensation, but I feel like we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Absolutely. So I know we've been talking for a while. Would you be okay if we invited you back in another month?
Of course. I'd be honored. It'd be fun. Yeah. I love talking about this stuff. So I love listening. Like, you guys gave me some nuggets. So like, it fuels me. We feed off each other. So it's fun.
It is fun. Sean, anything you want to say in conclusion?
Oh, well, I have a lot, but
I know. I'm sure you do.
Yeah, really great to have you on, and great fresh perspective, great energy, and I look forward to seeing into your sessions. And maybe we can trade or something. Of course, you got money, but and all you out there, look at his website, CosmicSugar.org. Is that what it is?
That's it. .org. Chris, what's your birthday? I think you told me already.
Yeah, it's December 28th.
December 20th. So oh, wow. So interesting. So you guys do a podcast together. So here's kind of an interesting little flair for you. So you're the Three of Hearts, right? Which is a card of celebration. And then, so here's your guys' cards. And then you're the Three of Spades. You guys, there's the 33 coming together.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
That is very cool.
So the Three of Spades is the card of the artist. It's really, and 3 just means creativity, right? 3 means communication. It runs the vocals. It's Gemini, the 2 twins, the Kundalini, the uprising, the Kundalini, the DNA upgrade. But these 3s right here, are very relevant for both of you guys. You look at your astrological chart, see where your Gemini is located, what's in your 3rd house. These are all important. You can place these cards in your 3rd house, and you can start to get a better rendition of why you're here.
Gotcha.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And
So
Chris,
go ahead.
Sorry, delay. Chris, how can people reach you? Is what I was going to say.
They can reach me here on this channel. Obviously, you know what it is because you've been
Might
watching.
be on another channel, who knows?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Go to YouTube, go to Quantum Businessman, and my channel will come up. My website is quantumbusinessman.com, and I've got all my videos and everything listed there. Every once in a while, doing travel things. Sean and I we're planning a group going to Ireland to go to a special location related to Atlantis and a soul shard library, which is another topic. But there's a lot of cool things on my website. So, Sean, how do we find you?
Yeah, Sean Bonnick, PsionicLeague.com, PsionicLeague YouTube. Lots of free abilities on there. I just like pump them out because it just come to me through the orchestrator in my mind. And yeah, also on Facebook, and it's hard to reach me, but PsionicLeague at Gmail, but you can message me on Facebook too if necessary, if it's a emergency. But I do healings. I really got well known for releasing pain over a distance, and yeah, just overall into unlocking consciousness and our greater unfoldment, because it's what's gonna free this planet and our greater evolution from the enslavement that's been put on us, and what we're finding ourselves in this mesh of other people's plays, trying to play out and continue as they're being destroyed, and those that shouldn't, people shouldn't be afraid of destruction if you understand its purposes and understand why it's needed. And with the hard truths of the black pill of understanding the dark truths of the reality, you can and be able to transmute that fear so it doesn't overtake you, and you can balance with love. Then you can avoid and dance around all drama and the destructions and predict it all with things like numerology and gematria. Cool. Thank you very much, Logan, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's been fun. A lot of great information. I love sharing this information, So, ladies and gentlemen, like, you got to make the truth your own. Don't take my word for it. Be a critic. Be a critic of what I said. Go do your studies yourself. And I mean, essentially, I think that all that matters is what you believe anyway. You may be creating your own reality, which, you're going to draw into it. So if you believe in a certain archetype, well, that's what you're going to experience. That could be the way it works.
Exactly. And thank everyone for watching till the end. Please give this video a thumbs up, and we look forward to the next episode of Symphony of Realities.
Smash that like button, subscribe, write in the comments, share this everywhere. The more sharing we see, the more views, the more we'll want to bring Logan on and over again. So yeah, spread, fly.
All right, everybody. Take care.